For all you buyers, you may have done this a few times already. You may have done it as recently as last year, or maybe it's been 15 to 20 years, or maybe you're even a first-time home buyer. Here are my 5 essential things you need to know as a buyer. Let's start with number 5, and that's timeline. I recently worked with first-time home buyers. They were such a sweet couple and they were super young, so kudos to them for getting in the real estate market at the ripe old age of 23. And part of their concern, of course, because they're getting a lot of information from their family, their friends, their coworkers, and their biggest concern was how many houses should we look at before we know which one we want to buy? I wouldn't worry about how many houses that you feel you need to look at. Worry about how do those houses make you feel? When you walk into the house, do you feel at home? Can you envision yourself living there? Are you imagining your friends coming over and you relaxing after a long day of work? That's the feeling that you want to have when you select a home. And it's also location, which we'll talk about later. But in terms of timeline and how many houses you need to look at, for some people, that could be one house, it could be 5 houses. For another, it could be 20 to 30 houses. What I would say, on average, people look at around 9 properties before they make a decision. Moving on to number 4, we are at location. Location is really important because you need to factor in your lifestyle. So that means, do I need easy access to the highway? Do I need to be close to a school? Shopping? Do I need walkability? Do I need transit? Really focus on and think hard about where you need to be in order to live your life how you want to live it. On the other side of location, you're going to have to factor in sometimes price point. Or it could be, you know what, I really love this house. It's not in my ideal location, but I love the house so much that I'm willing to give up a little bit on my location criteria for that specific house. Number 3, for something that you definitely need to know, is if you're going to buy into a strata property. And what exactly does living in a strata property mean? You have to factor in, what is my strata payment? What does it cover? What am I responsible for? And you also need to really, please, please, please go through that strata documentation. I know it is some of the most boring reading material you're ever going to have, but it's super important for you to go through it to make sure you can get a sense of what's going on within the strata, how well are they addressing issues, when there's a problem that comes up or is reported by an owner, is the strata council getting onto that issue? Are they repairing it? Are they dealing with it? Are they not dealing with it? Another thing you really want to look at is the contingency fund. So here in British Columbia, especially throughout the Lower Mainland and Fraser Valley, we can have strata corporations that hugely vary with how much is in their contingency fund. My best rule of thumb for everybody is to, at some point, if you're going to be owning a strata property, just factor in that you might have a levy somewhere down the line. And sometimes that levy can be huge. Sometimes it can be really small. Sometimes what a strata corporation will do, the example of a fence. So they need to replace some fencing. They look at what's in the contingency. Could they take out the money? Yes. Or do they go back and they charge each individual owner maybe $200 to $300 to pay for that repair? Sometimes going back and charging everyone $200 to $300 is a better business and financial decision for the strata. I also have one other thing to add. Now, if you're also looking at strata property, make sure you know the rules around pets. This one is super important because for many of us, and me being someone who we have 3 pets, is really, really important because there can be rules around size restrictions for dogs. Generally, you're okay. You can at least have 1 cat, 1 dog. In many 55 plus communities in the Lower Mainland and through the Fraser Valley, they don't allow cats or dogs at all. So make sure you know what those pet rules are before you go to purchase property, and especially before you even go to view one, because there's nothing worse than finding one that you fall in love with and then realize that you can't bring your dog with you. We are now down to the top 2 most important questions and answers you need to know before buying. And number 2 is your pre-approval. With your pre-approval, why is this so important? Because a lot of times what we think we can afford or what we think a lender is going to approve us for is not maybe as much as we thought it was. Now, what's also super important is to ask your mortgage broker or your lender to do a full deep dive pre-approval, because what happens is sometimes they don't do a full pre-approval, and something, maybe you had a cell phone 15 years ago and you thought you canceled that contract and now you're with a new provider and somehow that's still sitting on your credit report, and yes, that can actually affect your credit. The other flip side of a pre-approval is that when you do go to make an offer, yes, you still have to have a condition to financing, because that pre-approval and financing is actually two components. So you have your first component, which is getting your pre-approval, knowing what you can shop for, which will also tell you how much you're going to spend monthly on your mortgage payment. Look at the details as well. I could go into a whole topic of this, but we'll save that for another time. There's a huge misconception for buyers that they have their pre-approval and that means their financing is 100% and ready to go, but it's actually not. So when you make an offer, make sure you have your condition for financing, because the second part of that is your lender will go back and look at if they actually want to lend on that property. And sometimes other things pop up again with your credit, again with that pre-approval. So it is super important, because nobody wants to take that risk of saying, yep, my financing is totally fine, and it comes to close and all of a sudden it's not, and you're getting sued, and it's bad. So make sure you have that condition for financing, unless of course you have 100% of the cash to pay for your purchase. And what is the number one thing you need to know as a buyer that you may not know and someone hasn't answered? Hidden costs. Now, there are some hidden costs in there, and why I say hidden is because sometimes as professionals, we're doing this all day long, your lender's doing this all the time, and they forget about some of the fees that you have to pay when you're buying a house. Now, here in BC, that includes your property transfer tax. It includes any mortgage fees you might have to pay for the appraisal for your mortgage as well. You will also have to hire a lawyer or a notary, and you go to see them to do the conveyancing. So you sign pretty much all of your documents. Generally speaking, you also sign your mortgage document there, and they make sure that the title gets transferred from the seller over to you as the buyer. You also have an adjustment for your annual property tax. Now, this is different from your property transfer tax, which is a one-time charge on your purchase. And then of course you have your annual property tax that is payable to the city that you live in every year. So let's say you move in the middle of the year, you move July 1st. The seller is going to pay those first 6 months of the year. You as the buyer are going to pay the last 6 months of the year. So you'll see an adjustment on your statement of adjustments for that as well. And then of course, if you did buy a strata property, you will have an adjustment for your strata fees. Same thing. Let's say you purchase the house and you get possession of it on the 20th of the month. The seller will have paid the strata fees from the 1st to the 20th. You're going to pay the rest of the strata fees for the 21st to the 30th. And they typically take out the next month's strata fee at that time as well. Now, don't forget you have a couple of other moving costs, and those are if you hire a moving company to move you, which I would actually say and recommend, if you can do it, it is worth every penny. So much less stress and peace of mind. But you also have to worry about your gas, your electricity, if you still have a subscription to cable, you have to get that transferred over, your internet, and you might need packing supplies. So definitely make sure that you keep some money aside for just your general moving costs as well. Those are my top 5 things that buyers need to know when purchasing a property. And if you have any questions at all, make sure to leave me a comment and I will definitely get back to you, and we'll see you on the next one.